The LeBron saga continues. A regrettable turn, really. The Lakers' internal pressure cooker is apparently about to boil over, with the player once hailed as destiny incarnate standing precariously at its heart. As for the swirling rumors, LeBron's message was succinct, almost indifferent. Honestly, I'm not losing sleep over these articles. However, the simmering tensions boiled over. Whispers turned to shouts when Reddick, the Lakers' head coach, supposedly attempted to substitute LeBron. James's response? A public display of dominance, perhaps the most emasculating act imaginable in the coach-player dynamic. Let's dissect this pivotal moment. The spark? A December 1st, 2025 clash between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Phoenix Suns at the Crypto.com arena. The Lakers, at the time, were riding high on a 7-game win streak, oblivious to the impending storm. Before disaster struck, a deceptive mirage shimmered around the Lakers. Sunlight painted their practices gold. Whispers of championship contention danced on the breeze. Then, the third quarter descended like a thunderclap. Suddenly, the score glared from the Jumbotron. Phoenix 94, Lakers 73. The dream had begun to fray. The Suns had laid siege from a jump. The second quarter saw them bleed Los Angeles for 35-22, followed by a 30-26 drubbing in the third. Phoenix's offense flowed like liquid fire, a constant torrent culminating in 27 assists on 39 baskets. The Lakers? A disconnected mess, utterly humiliated on their own floor. 55 ticks remained in the third, the script called by Reddick. Braun, he barked from the Lakers sideline, a mantra lost in the Din Doncic. Now a Laker advanced the sphere. Reddick needed the king to move to answer the call of duty. But the throne remained silent. LeBron, midcourt, was a picture of casual camaraderie, yucking it up with the Phoenix Suns bench, old pal Jordan Goodwin holding his attention. Reddick, eyes narrowed to slits, signaled for a timeout that felt less tactical, more personal. The camera, a cruel chronicler, caught every tremor of Reddick's simmering disbelief. The shake of his head, a silent scream of frustration. The echo of the whistle seemed to cling to the air, lost in the vortex of LeBron's lingering exchange with the Suns. He held court, words hanging like vapor before finally, reluctantly, drifting toward the Lakers' bench. The hand-wringing commenced. The tableau reeked of dysfunction. The scoreboard, a brutal indictment, 125-108. The Suns, fueled by Dillon Brooks's fiery 33 and Colin Gillespie's improbable 28-point eruption from the bench, a preposterous 8-14 from deep, thoroughly dismantled the Lakers. Their winning streak, a fragile thing it turns out, shattered against Phoenix's confident display. 13-9 the Suns now stood, emboldened by their road conquest. Luka Doncic, a lone star in the Lakers' fading constellation, mustered 38-11, but even his Herculean effort proved a whisper against the Suns' roaring triumph. The cracks in the Lakers' facade, papered over by fleeting victories, were now gaping wounds, laid bare for all to see. LeBron posted his double-digit point streak, now a staggering 1,298, but the box score hid the truth. He was off. The Lakers, listless and disjointed, sleepwalked through the game. Afterward, Reddick sidestepped the timeout debacle, instead laying the blame squarely on fatigue and a collective mental collapse stemming from a brutal stretch of games. The frustration was palpable, even through his carefully chosen words. Reddick, post-mortem, likened the Lakers' implosion to a Monstar's abduction, a talent vacuum, an inexplicable evaporation of grit. It wasn't strategy, he insisted. It was effort. Don't bring a pillow to a gunfight against Phoenix, he lamented. They'll feast on every sliver of laziness, every blinked eye. The Phoenix debacle laid bare the Lakers' frailties. Missed assignments, lazy rebounds. A team exposed for thinking it could sleepwalk past a contender. Post-game, LeBron cited a plague of turnovers, defensive. Gaps wide enough to drive a semi through, and the Suns' inferno-like shooting. According to James, they were a beat slow all night, stumbling to find any semblance of offensive flow. The Phoenix debacle, that timeout from hell, went unacknowledged by both James and Reddick, but the basketball world saw it. The internet predictably exploded. The clip, a digital contagion, burned through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. Views climbed into the millions within a blink, fueling a cacophony of takes, from head-shaking amusement to full-blown fury, all splashed across the freshly rebranded X. The digital court of public opinion, as it often does, rendered a split verdict. The LeBron's checked-out chorus swelled, fueled by that viral timeout, painting him as detached, a king neglecting his kingdom. Disrespectful, they hissed. Complacent. But the faithful countered, a protective phalanx. A 41-year-old warrior, 23 seasons etched on his soul, staring into the abyss of a lost cause. Why bleed for a wound already fatal? Why court the ghost of injury when the score screamed surrender? The buzzer was a mere formality, the outcome etched in sweat and exhaustion. LeBron, ever the diplomat, was merely exchanging pleasantries with familiar faces across the hardwood divide. Fataway World downplayed Reddick's simmering annoyance, chalking it up to typical team quirks rather than a gaping chasm. But Larry Brown's sports saw deeper, dissecting the moment as a microcosm of Reddick's struggle to harness a force of nature like LeBron. The air crackled. The timeout spectacle became fodder. Podcasts, talking heads, radio shouters, and the infinite scroll of social media all gnawed at the bone of contention. That timeout, though jarring, was merely a prelude, a discordant note in what was becoming a full-blown symphony of unrest within the Lakers. The crescendo, a public eruption of grievances, was just around the corner, poised to engulf the NBA in a media maelstrom. The team's initial 15-4 record, a beacon of hope, masked the brewing storm. The Lakers, riding high after the Doncic coup in 25, looked primed for a title run. Hope swiftly devolved into a dispiriting 11-13 slump, sparking doubts about their very foundation. Redick, ever the tactician, pinpointed LeBron's return from injury as a turning point, lamenting the offense's descent into chaotic improvisation. The numbers, as always, told a stark, unflattering tale. LeBron's on-court defensive metrics plummeted, a porous 121.9 points surrendered per 100 possessions, bottom of the Lakers' barrel. Defensively, the puzzle simply wouldn't align. The final indignity, a Christmas Day shellacking at the hands of the Houston Rockets, further cratered their Western Conference aspirations. Reddick, seething, then took to the microphones, publicly castigating the team's apparent apathy. His words, sharpened and aimed, promised grueling film sessions, forcing players to confront their on-court ghosts. The reckoning had arrived. Hiding was no longer an option. Reddick, the following day, laid bare the Lakers' failures in a team meeting, branding it a painful exercise in accountability. Accounts depict a session thick with discomfort, brutally honest. Reddick, apparently, had traded kid gloves for sandpaper, comfortable lies for lacerating truths. After the Suns' debacle, LeBron demanded explanations, progress, hustle. His silence was the post-game statement. No press scrum, no sound bites. A stark contrast to his usual open-door policy. Clearly, that closed-door meeting had shaken the king, its impact resonating more profoundly than any uttered word. Whispers painted a picture of a locker room clash, Reddick and LeBron locking horns. The substance of their argument remained shrouded, its exact nature a closely guarded secret. Though both publicly deflected questions, portraying an image of unity, the rumors lingered. Unnamed sources, cloaked in anonymity, fueled the narrative of friction between the rookie head coach and the NBA's all-time scoring king. Reddick, amidst the storm, became LeBron's unlikely shield, parrying critiques with practiced diplomacy. He championed James' all-star bid, overlooking the King's strategic absences and nagging injuries. January 2026 saw Reddick publicly gush, calling LeBron a joy to coach, lauding his grace under pressure. The pronouncements, while seemingly heartfelt, had the calculated ring of crisis management. Yet, beneath the veneer of harmony, the undercurrent of discord remained palpable to even casual observers. LeBron, never one to mince words, delivered his assessment with a velvet hammer. Asked point-blank about potential trades, he offered it carefully. Couched, "Yeah, I do," a syllable pregnant with implication. Respect for the jersey be damned. The subtext screamed that this iteration of the Lakers, as currently molded, was championship deficient. A surgical intervention was required. LeBron, his patience threadbare, wasn't about to squander another championship window. That December debacle? Just a flare-up, signaling a deeper rot infecting the Lakers. Player, coach, owner, their once solid bond was unraveling, fraying into something undeniably toxic. But the true detonation, the earth-shattering kaboom, came from left field, threatening to topple the very temple of Lakers lore. The Buss family feud went nuclear. January 21st, 2026. The date ESPN, via Baxter Holmes, detonated a grenade in the NBA landscape. His investigative piece wasn't just an article. It was an expose, a raw unveiling of years of Buss family rancor, a venomous internal battle that finally forced the sale of the Lakers. But that wasn't the true shock. The piece also peeled back the curtain on the rumored Cold War brewing between Jeanie Buss and the king himself, the man draped in the Laker legacy of purple and gold. LeBron James. The expose ripped a hole in the Lakers' manufactured facade of unity. Insiders whispered that Jeanie Buss, behind closed doors, chafed at what she perceived as LeBron's colossal ego and the vice-like grip Clutch Sports held on the franchise. This bitterness, sources claimed, had been simmering for ages, poisoning the bond between owner and superstar. Word was, Buss resented the narrative that James was the franchise's white knight, rescuing them from mediocrity. Jeanie Buss saw LeBron's arrival in 18 differently. The Lakers, a dynasty built on legends like Kareem and Magic, Shaq and Kobe, hadn't needed saving. She believed the purple and gold's shimmering legacy, not the other way around, had lured the king. The idea that LeBron was some kind of savior to a floundering franchise was a barb that particularly stung. The Lakers, once the glamorous prize, had become the team in need of saving, according to the expose. Jeanie Buss's simmering frustrations, laid bare, centered on past decisions. The Russell Westbrook acquisition, a LeBron-orchestrated disaster from 21, particularly stung. A trade deemed a catastrophe by any sane metric, yielding a playoff-less abyss of 33-49 season and squandering a vital championship opportunity. As the Lakers spiraled, Jeanie Buss simmered, convinced LeBron dodged blame like a seasoned politician. He'd championed the Westbrook disaster, then conveniently vanished when the fallout hit, leaving others to scramble in the wreckage. The report hinted at a 2022 internal debate. Should she even bother extending LeBron? The unthinkable, a trade, perhaps to the Clippers, a public shaming of King James himself, was whispered within the inner circle. It was about more than basketball. It was a power play, a desperate attempt to reclaim the Lakers' reins, wresting control from the players and their influential agents, who, in her view, had begun calling the shots. Come the 24 draft, things went from simmering to boiling. The Lakers, with their 55th pick, plucked Bronny James, LeBron's son. Let's be frank, Bronny's USC numbers, a meager 4.8 points, 2.8 boards, 2.1 assists, screamed development league, not NBA readiness, especially after his health scare. It was a loyalty play, pure and simple. A thank you note, etched in draft card form for all the King had gifted the purple and gold, and a promise to keep his reign contented. The Bronny pick, in Jeanie's estimation, was a monumental olive branch, practically begging for acknowledgement. ESPN sources painted a picture of James receiving it as a mere formality, a shrug rather than a bow of appreciation. The perceived lack of effusive thanks festered. She'd bent over backwards, and the return was indifference. This, piled atop years of simmering discontent, still wasn't enough to stop her from handing LeBron that 2-year, $104 million deal in July of 24. The no-trade clause slipped into the contract like a poison pill, stuck in Jeanie Buss's throat more than she let on. She acquiesced, but the acceptance felt like a surrender. Now, LeBron held all the cards, a golden scepter granting him dominion over his own fate. He was untouchable, immovable unless he decreed otherwise. The tectonic plates of Lakers' power had shifted. The King reigned supreme. And just as this power play echoed through the organization, the ESPN expose dropped, detonating the Buss family's long-simmering feud in a spectacular public explosion. The Buss family saga? A modern-day King Lear, only with basketballs instead of kingdoms. Jerry Buss, the architect of the Lakers' glitzy Showtime reign, passed in February of 13, leaving his 66% empire to his 6 heirs via a trust rigged to keep the gold and purple in the bloodline for ages. Clever, on paper. In reality, the best laid plans, well, you know how that goes. The Buss family feud, simmering since Jerry's passing, finally boiled over in 2017. A brazen power grab saw Jeanie's own brothers, Jim and Johnny, launch a boardroom offensive, their audacious plan to oust her completely, presenting a director slate that left her utterly out in the cold, a naked attempt to wrest control of the Lakers dynasty from her grip. Jeanie, however, met their treachery with a furious counterattack. Jeanie Buss, battling for the Lakers' throne, had drawn blood, familial blood. Lawsuits flew, restraining orders served as shields, and the Buss family's dirty laundry aired for all of Los Angeles to see. Victory in court was Pyrrhic. The fissures remained, deepened even. By 2019, the simmering resentment boiled over. During one particularly acrimonious exchange with her brother Jesse, Jeanie reportedly unleashed the ultimate parental rejection. You should have never been born. The barb cut deep, a nasty allusion to Jerry Buss's broken promise to Joanne, a pledge of familial restraint shattered by a later brood. It was ugly, intimate warfare, a clear measure of the Buss family's unraveling. By summer's dawn, 2025, the rot was irreversible. A unanimous vote sealed their fate. A majority share of the Lakers, crown jewel and all, would pass to billionaire Mark Walter, already lurking in the shadows as a Guggenheim partner, for a staggering $10 billion. A record smashed, the most ever shelled out for a sports dynasty. The Buss family coffers swelled by $500 million apiece post-sale, yet Jeanie clung to the Lakers' reins with a 17% stake, enough to rule the roost for 5 more NBA seasons. November 2025 saw her reign commence not with grace, but with a brutal cleansing. Siblings Joey and Jesse, long fixtures in the Lakers' front office, found themselves unceremoniously evicted, victims of Jeanie's consolidated power. The coaching change echoed like a gunshot through the forum, a blatant power play. Jeanie Buss, now on the outside looking in, wore her heartbreak on her sleeve. The betrayal, she lamented publicly, left her feeling discarded, worthless, like trash she'd choked out, a discarded draft. The deepest cut, the unspoken accusation. My father, she'd whispered, voice cracking with the weight of legacy, would be turning in his grave. Jerry Buss's vision, a dynasty shepherded by his children, united, lay shattered, a dream now scattered like dust. The Buss family fantasy, however, flatlined with the ink still drying on the sale agreement. leaving a void as family loyalties were cast aside. This miasma of boardroom betrayal was the very air LeBron James was forced to breathe, a truth Jeannie Buss would later concede, laced with regret. The ESPN expose, detailing the icy undercurrents between Buss and LeBron, splashed down amidst a tsunami of family feuds, billion-dollar deals, and the tectonic plates of the Lakers organization shifting beneath everyone's feet. LeBron, though technically a supporting player in this operatic family tragedy, still commanded center stage in the unfolding narrative. In the frantic hours following the report's release, Jeannie Buss issued a carefully worded statement to The Athletic, a desperate attempt to stanch the bleeding. Jeannie Buss, in response, offered a staunch defense, a carefully worded olive branch, to suggest ingratitude for LeBron's contributions to the Lakers to drag him into the messy Buss family saga, she insisted, was utterly wrong and deeply unfair. The statement was polished, a masterclass in public relations. It lauded LeBron's achievements while delicately sidestepping a direct confrontation with the ESPN expose. As if to underscore her point, her Instagram feed suddenly showcased a picture. Jeannie, beaming, locked in an embrace with LeBron after the 2020 championship win. That timeout huddle, a charade of respect, or perhaps just scorched earth PR, desperate to salvage a fractured partnership. Then came LeBron's retort, delivered after the Lakers' latest stumble against the Clippers on January 22, 2026. The ESPN bomb detonated, and his answer? A studied yawn, indifference honed to a razor's edge. LeBron, unflappable as ever, met the swirling tempest with a practiced shrug. The noise, the chatter, the digitally rendered narratives? Honestly, he drawled, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. Articles, stories, podcasts that don't even register. Not on my radar. LeBron waved it off, the ESPN piece. Not that kind of stupid gets under my skin anymore. I'm past 40, dealing with them, these noise merchants on the regular. An article ain't nothing. He kept his tone even carefully neutral. The noise didn't touch him. Let the whispers leak, let the articles bleed ink. If you knew him, really knew him, that was the only compass he followed. His teammates, they knew the man. That was the shield. The implication, outside chatter was just static, didn't register. So when they cornered him, pressed him about LA, about the storm raging around the Lakers, he just shrugged it off. I'm good, he said a beat. I'm good, done. He hammered the point home, a repetitive shield deflecting any hint of inner turmoil. Me and Jeannie chatting? Never happened, folks. Pure fiction. Let's not manufacture drama. Is this where you want to be? I said. Is this where you want to be? The echo hung in the air, a verbal brick wall. LeBron waved it off. Fine, he was fine. He admitted no direct conversation with Buss since the ESPN expose detonated. Their business relationship, he conceded, remained good, though with a trademark LeBron wink, he added, always two sides. In it, that small nod spoke volumes, a tacit admission that the media's soundbites couldn't contain the full story. Power players were locked in an intricate dance, where discord was a given, but a quarrel wasn't necessarily a catastrophe. Rich Paul, LeBron's shadow, his confidant, and the architect of clutch sports, offered a blunter, less diplomatic take, brushing it all aside with a wave of his hand. Rich Paul, on his and Max Kellerman's podcast, Game Over, brushed aside the whole affair with typical force. Another day, another headline, he practically spat. Who cares? I don't. You don't. Half of it's garbage anyway. Hall's retort highlighted a calculated indifference. Not every rumor needed oxygen. Not every slight deserved a reply. Sometimes the most effective counter was a deafening silence, or in this case, a colorful dismissal, revealing just how insignificant the story was to those living it. The ESPN article lit the fuse, and the media detonated. Cable news became a Lakers therapy session, dissecting every syllable like it held the secrets of the universe. Podcasts tripped over themselves, desperate to be the first to pronounce the Lakers dead. Twitter? A digital bonfire of hot takes. Some insightful, many just loud. Stephen A. Smith, ever the conductor of controlled chaos, unleashed a booming soliloquy on First Take, simultaneously canonizing LeBron's legacy and slapping his wrist for a perceived fib. Yet, the ESPN piece, in its dissecting, missed a vital truth: LeBron's weight in gold. Before King James graced Hollywood, the Lakers languished, a shadow of their shimmering past. Stephen A. Smith thundered, reminding everyone the Lakers were mired in irrelevance. 7 playoff-less seasons marking their darkest era from 14 to 19, before LeBron's arrival resurrected their dynasty aspirations. The Lakers, once royalty, were now NBA's court jesters, appointment viewing for rubberneckers drawn to spectacular implosions. Stephen A. Smith, however, refused to bury LeBron, crediting him with the 20-20 title and marveling at his sustained brilliance at 41, still dropping 20-plus a night in year 23. He waved away whispers of clutch gene failures and power plays, framing them as standard operating procedure for any agent worth his salt, zealously guarding and promoting his superstar client. And then there was JJ. Even JJ Reddick, the Lakers' beleaguered coach, waded into the fray, shielding LeBron from the escalating storm. After months spent sidestepping questions about their partnership, Reddick seized the chance to finally set the record straight. He decried the attacks on James as unwarranted, given the Kings' obvious commitment and relentless work ethic. "Honestly, I don't take any of LeBron's contributions for granted," Reddick stated. "And to be frank, it's a damn shame, pardon the digression, how much he invests, how deeply he cares, and yet, the garbage some people spew." "Madness," Reddick spat, his voice laced with exasperation, targeting LeBron's ever-present detractors. He diagnosed their constant barrage of negativity as nothing more than pure, unadulterated envy, the kind that poisons wells and, ironically, doesn't even generate clicks. Smith knew the game. Praise gets you nowhere, dirt gets you clicks. Reddick, ever the student, understood too. But even Smith, LeBron's staunch defender, had to call him out on the indifference act. "All that, I don't care what they say routine." "Baloney," Smith thundered. "He cares. LeBron James cares a whole damn lot. That facade of detachment? A flat-out lie. Narrative mattered to him, always had. Believe it. I knew it. Knew he paid attention." Stephen A.'s take was born of years chronicling LeBron's journey, across eras and zip codes. Having witnessed LeBron's responses to both accolades and barbs for 2 decades, the analyst surmised that his practiced indifference masked a keen awareness of the legacy-crafting narratives that would cement his place in history. Nick Wright posited that the root of the conflict stemmed from differing views on who rescued whom when LeBron arrived in Los Angeles. In his mind, LeBron viewed himself as the savior, citing the championship win just 2 years after inheriting a Lakers franchise languishing at the bottom of the league for half a decade. Wright's assertion struck a nerve, laying bare the core of the ego clash. LeBron viewed himself not as a mere player, but as the Lakers' rescuer, a claim backed by stark reality. The franchise was a sinking ship until James chose to grace Los Angeles. Not some slick sales pitch from Belenka or Bus, but LeBron's presence pulled them from the abyss. A champion team bloomed in his wake, a simple before and after that spoke volumes. The writing was on the wall for those who dared look. Brian Windhorst, ever the astute LeBron chronicler, offered the most level-headed breakdown of the Kings' predicament. On Get Up, he distilled LeBron's future path to a single, stark reality: stay put. A trade, Windhorst declared, was simply off the table. So, LeBron's got the hammer, right? No trade. He ain't going anywhere he doesn't want. Lakers, maybe at a discount if he stays. Or the whole league could turn into a bidding war. Imagine the summer frenzy. Otherwise, well, he could just hang him up. In an era just like that. Whispers in the league corridors put LeBron's return to the purple and gold at roughly a 1-in-3 gamble, but with a hefty caveat: a slash paycheck. Post-Doncic acquisition, a consequence of the Davis trade to Dallas back in 25, the Lakers' coffers are tighter than a drum. Luka's max deal now lords over their salary cap, hamstringing any hopes of a major roster overhaul. Simply put, LeBron can't command his current Kings ransom and expect reinforcements. The clock ticks toward the trade deadline, and the chessboard remains in constant flux. Father Time, undefeated as he is, hasn't quite caught LeBron. 42 summers will have kissed his brow before the 26-27 tip-off. The Kings' armor shows fewer dents than one might expect, considering the battles he's waged. The regular season and playoff odometers are both maxed out. This year's stat line, a respectable 22.4, 6, and 6.7. Hints at royalty, but nagging aches, sciatica's bite, arthritic pangs in his foot, whisper doubts. How much longer can the crown be worn with such unwavering authority? Whispers now tell of a summit scheduled. LeBron, Paul, and Jeannie cloistered away, hoping to scrub clean the ether after the recent, very public airing of dirty laundry. A truce? Perhaps. Genuine healing? A far steeper climb. The chasm between them runs deep, etched by years of power plays and perceived slights. One powwow won't fill it. Enter Mark Walter, the new sheriff in town, his presence a wild card in this already volatile equation, promising a clean slate, if only they'll let him write on it. Walter, fresh off turning the Dodgers into a perennial World Series juggernaut through shrewd analytics and deep pockets, brings that same championship or bust mentality to the Lakers. The Dodgers became baseball royalty under his reign, and he'll demand nothing short of basketball dominance. Whether LeBron figures into that grand design, that remains the million-dollar question hanging heavy in the LA air. For Walter, the calculus regarding King James is brutally pragmatic. Father Time, undefeated, is nipping at LeBron's heels. A Doncic-centric era beckons, potentially rendering the aging supernova a pricey, albeit legendary, spare part. Walter's vision, presumably focused on a dynasty built brick by brick, may clash with the sentimentality of rewarding a legend for glories past. Let's be clear, though, LeBron wasn't some unwanted cast-off. Never benched, never scorned. The notion itself bordered on the ridiculous, considering the Kings' unassailable veto power and his perch atop the NBA pantheon. The video's boast of a public shaming proved hyperbolic. Instead, what unfolded was a garish display of Lakers' internal strife, long kept under wraps. Whispers from the shadows exposed buried animosities. The talking heads feasted, magnifying every juicy morsel. LeBron, ever the master of the composed facade, shrugged off the brewing storm with the practiced ease of a seasoned diplomat. Sincerity or simply stagecraft? Only the king himself knows the truth behind the carefully cultivated indifference. 23 seasons for kingdoms and a near-constant barrage of fire. LeBron has been forged in the crucible of criticism. The decision in 2010 painted him as public enemy number one, and his Cleveland homecoming demanded a public act of contrition. Even his arrival in the purple and gold of Los Angeles was met with whispers of ulterior motives and questioned dedication. A microscope was placed on his every move. His scoring averages were not enough. Even his friendships were fodder for gossip. But through the smoke, he lifted 4 banners with 3 different armies. And he conquered the mountain no one thought scalable, snatching the scoring crown from Abdul-Jabbar. The storm raged, but LeBron had weathered tempests before. The whispers, the barbs, the pronouncements of his decline, all would eventually be swallowed by the relentless churn of the news cycle, replaced by the next drama, the next outrage. He'd simply keep playing a force of nature until nature itself said otherwise, until the king decided the throne no longer beckoned. When the king finally abdicates his throne, the echoes won't fade. The arguments about his reign, the crown he wore, the alliances he forged, his standing amongst the game's immortals, will rage on. Such figures, who reshape the landscape itself, never truly escape scrutiny. The discourse simply morphs, viewed through the lens of passing years. For now, however, the purple and gold still lay claim to LeBron. Reddick still roams the sidelines. Genie Bus still holds the reins. But the reign of Doncic dawns. LeBron's sun dips low. The future is a blank page, yet history whispers its familiar refrain. So ends this tale for now. But mark these words, LeBron's story isn't finished. He'll find a way, he always does, to twist the narrative, silence the doubters, and etch another unbelievable chapter onto the epic scroll of his career. A champion's instinct, you see. And that's all for this peek behind the curtain. For more explorations into the Lakers' drama and LeBron's ongoing saga, the next act awaits on your screen.